Well, first of all, in this program I am expecting to do a sample program about authors and the books they wrote. And in this program I am going to find out which one is a long novel and who wrote which book, and those kind of things I am going to target to be solved in this given problem or this program. Basically, I am planning to use two variables, and we will use some other variables if there was any requirement. For the time being, let's just use a name which is of symbol data type, and page count, or let's just say count, and it is of integer data type. Well, in the predicate part, there is a very important thing that we need to use. As in any programming language, predicate part is used to define. In the definition part, there is a special term called non-determ. This non-determ clause is a must in most of the situations when you are declaring predicates. So I am going to just type non-determ, right. Non-determ is first non-determ we are going to declare is a written by clause. Written by. In this clause, there will be two variables that will be passed. That is the author and the name of the book. And the next thing I am going to use is a book, an non-determ called book. And the next non-determ that I am going to use is a book. Book which is consists of name and integer which is used for the count, page count. Then after I am going to use another non-determ or another declaration for a long novel, which states whether the novel is considered as a long novel, name and the integer. Well, that is almost it when we are considered about predicates. Now let's move on to the clauses. In these clauses, we represent things that we know, that means facts. And another special thing that we are going to use is rules. Facts and rules are basically demonstrated in the clauses section. Well, in this clauses section, as I said, we are going to represent things that we already know and the rules. First of all, I am going to list down those things that we already know. I mean, these things are basically we should know from the given problem context or the given problem domain. We should derive this information. For this problem, I am going to just type in those information, so we can go on working with it. Well, first I am going to use the written by non-determ, where I am going to have to pass two symbol or name type variables, symbol variables. In this case, I am going to just pass a name called Fleming and book names B1, and another written by clause where I am going to pass same author Fleming and a book called B2, and I am going to do this repeatedly for another author who is namely called Melville, and I am going to add those two books as well. There's an important thing that you should know and you should notice is I use a dot in the clauses section. Every term in this clauses and goals section must end with a dot. That is a must. That is a language rule in this prologue language. Then after I am going to describe another non-determ called book. which consists of variable type of string and or symbol and integer. And there are 4 books. As you can see, there are 2 authors who wrote 4 books. So in this book section we have to describe about 4 books. Oops. This is the last one. It has 320 pages. Right. Now we have finished inserting the things that we already know. That means we have finished inserting facts. Now we have to derive rules. What are the things that will elaborate from these given facts? Well, consider something like this. If you supposedly say if a book has more than 300 pages, you say it is a long novel. So we have to write a long novel which has X is a long novel which has Y number of pages if and only if and to achieve this thing, or to call X is a long novel, basically there is 2 things we need to happen. That means an author must write this book and this book must have more than 300 pages. So how we are going to represent it in logically? So as you can see, there are 2 or more things to be succeeded to success this goal. So basically, as I described earlier in the slides, to represent an and we can use a comma in visual prologue. Well, first thing is this book has to be written, this book has to be already written, or this book has to be in existence. So that means we have to write a written by clause. Written by. So in this context, we just don't consider about who wrote this book. So we just can type an underscore which says anyone written this book. That means anyone written by X. X can be written by anyone. And we use an and, a comma to represent an and then after we have to say this book has this number of pages. So we use the book clause. X has Y number of pages. So how we are going to represent it has more than 300 pages? Basically this can be done in considering about greater than and less than. So we know Y is the number of pages and it needs to be more than 300. So we have to just put an and say Y greater than 300. That is simply it. This is the rule that describes a long novel, which can be considered as a non-determ. Every rule must be declared in the predicate section as a non-determ. Finally, now we can consider about the goal. Well, suppose we need to take all the books which has more than 300 pages. Well, obviously the clause we have to class is long novel. Long novel. Oops, I have made a mistake. When I am declaring predicates, I just say underscore, right. In the long novel, we can say any 2 variables. We can pass any 2 variables and get an output. So I think this should do it. Let's run the program and see what will happen. Okay. There we go. It says these books has more than 300 pages. So this is the basic output of our program. Okay, now let's suppose we need to take all the books written by a particular author. That we can do writing some other kind of, we have to pass another goal. Well, we need to find out who wrote which book. Then in that case we need to use the written by. clause. In this written by clause, we can just pass a variable, or in this case we have to pass an author's name. In that case I am going to pass Melville, and I am going to just type in variable to get the outputs. Let's see what will happen. Okay, B3 and B4 are the books written by Melville. As you can see, you can verify it. B3 and B4 are the books written by Melville. Well, that is basically a very simple program using Visual Product, and in the next example I am going to go in more detail and I am going to discuss about how we are going to do comparisons and calculations within a product program.